wellness revolution starts now.
Hello, I'm Dr. Steve Hotze. Welcome to today's program. I'm pleased to have with us a longtime guest here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center, Cindy Jones. As a matter of fact, Cindy came in originally back in 2006. So we're glad to have her here. Cindy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well and very happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. Now, Cindy, I know you do a lot of work in your line of work. You're an accountant.
That's true.
And a controller, and so a CPA. So you got to be sharp and on top of things all the time because somebody's always asking you questions. What about this? What about the balance sheet? What about profit and loss? How are we doing this month? So
what about cash?
What about cash? I know. So it's a big responsibility. When you came in 2006, tell us about your symptoms. You grew up here in Houston, right?
I did. I grew up here in Houston. I came in with 2 pharmaceutical drugs that were not good for me. And I knew they weren't good for me, but I was taking them because I was told that I had an imbalance that I would probably have for the rest of my life.
What kind of imbalance?
A hormonal imbalance.
Okay, you had a hormonal imbalance. So
Yes.
Did they put you on hormones?
They gave me no, sir. They didn't. That would have been too logical.
They literally told you had a hormone
literally
imbalance.
told me I had a hormonal imbalance, but they didn't give me hormones. They gave me Adderall and Zoloft, and pretty high doses at that.
Well, Adderall is a type of amphetamine, as you well know. And what was it, Zoloft?
Zoloft.
Zoloft is an SSR antidepressant. So you had hormonal problems. And when did these hormonal problems occur?
After I had my daughter.
So it's not uncommon for women after they have a child for their hormones to become imbalanced because they've been shut off for 9 months and they've got to kick back in. If they don't kick back in right and don't get balanced, it's going to cause a host of health problems. And so it's not uncommon for us to see women here at our center who come in who started on these various antidepressants and psychotropic drugs and stimulants, amphetamines, after they had their children like you did. So you had been on those for how long?
About 3 years.
Okay.
About 3 years.
Okay. And
in increasing doses.
And they also had found that you had elevated cholesterol, so they put you on
Zoloft.
Well, they put not the Zoloft was the antidepressant.
No, sorry.
Vytorin.
It was Vytorin that they put me on.
So you were on 3 drugs when you came in, or maybe you weren't even on that. How did you do on the Vytorin?
I had gotten off of the Vytorin on my own because a 7-day course caused a panic attack. I'd never had a panic attack before. Asked the doctor. He said, well, that's not one of the side effects. So I took 3 more pills, had 1 more panic attack, and said, no more of that. I'm not going to take that drug anymore. And now that is on the black box warning on that drug that it does cause panic attacks. So I was ahead of the curve.
Well, the cholesterol medication obviously is given to lower cholesterol as if that's the problem in heart disease, which it's not. As a matter of fact, people with higher cholesterol have lower all-age mortality than people that are on that have low cholesterol or on anti-cholesterol medication. The all-cause mortality is improved the higher the cholesterol is, up to 240, and that's been documented by numerous studies. So they said, well, it's going to keep you from having a heart disease. Well, but it's going to cause you to die of something else much quicker. So one of the things it affects brain function. It can lead to dementia, and it can lead to panic attacks like you experienced. And it also cuts down, I'm talking about the statin drugs, they cut down on your production of coenzyme Q10, which is extremely important for all the cells, particular muscle cells in your body, to produce energy, particularly the heart. And so when people get on coenzymes, when they get on the statin drugs, their coenzyme Q10 production is dramatically decreased or eliminated, And then that causes a whole group of health problems because coenzyme Q10 enables the cells to produce and use energy. So anyway, you came in, and when you decided to come in to see us, you were on these two different medications. What had your symptoms been, your hormonal decline that the doctors say? What were your symptoms?
I could not get out of bed. I could not get out of bed. I had zero energy. And after being on progesterone, all of that started coming back. Now I had a plethora of other issues that kind of were a domino effect of having been on those drugs for 3 years. And it took a full year to wean me off of those two drugs before I really got to the point where I was my old self and feeling really good and able to keep up with this wonderful child I had.
So when you came into the center, who did you see? Dr. Sheridan?
Yes. Yes,
and
sir.
I think I had seen you somewhere and talked to you and told you I thought you were going to need some progesterone, or Dr. Sheridan was going to be your primary physician, and he saw you. And so tell me about, were you having premenstrual symptoms? Were you having any changes in your menstrual cycles at all?
I wasn't at that time. I didn't have any issues, and the hot flashes and things hadn't happened yet. I wasn't old enough for that. I was all of 40-something.
Just a young lady.
Just a young lady.
So we started you on the progesterone, and it took you about a year to be able to wean off the other medications.
And thyroid. That was very important. We have a long history of thyroid disease as well as Alzheimer's in my family. So everything that's happened here, I swear, has added decades to my life.
So we got you up on a good, healthy eating program. We got you on thyroid hormones to help stimulate your metabolic rate, get your energy level up, put you on progesterone to balance out the hormones during your menstrual cycles, eliminated and got you tapered off the amphetamine and tapered off the antidepressant. And so that would have been probably 2007 and 2008 by the time you completed that. So tell me about your health since that time. I'm talking about since 2007, 2008 on. How's your health been?
Very, very good, I think. I've had a few bumps in the road, but mostly physical things from being in a hurry and hurting myself that have had nothing to do with my overall well-being. And my blood is beautiful. Very well hydrated and balanced. I'm very pleased.
So you've been on the program now for almost 20 years.
21 years.
21 years.
Yes, sir.
And it's made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not willing to get off of it.
No, sir. No. I'll fight for those hormones.
We use natural bioidentical hormones here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. As women age, and it can happen, right after puberty, or it can happen early in the 20s, 30s after childbirth, as it happened with you, there are changes in the hormones, and the estrogen hormones and the progesterone hormones become imbalanced. And progesterone is the hormone of the last half of the month. All month long, you're making estrogen, proliferating the inner lining of the womb, and then the progesterone matures it after you ovulate. If you're not making enough progesterone, estrogen dominates, and that adversely affects, not just only can adversely affect menstrual cycles, which you didn't have a real problem with, but it affects your brain function. It affects your neurotransmitters in the brain so you don't feel right. So what were the symptoms, the hormonal symptoms the doctors said, or what hormonal symptoms did you have that they said you needed the antidepressants and the Adderall for? Just the fact that you were fatigued all the time?
It was the fatigue and not being able to really function. And I had a young child at home. I needed to be on my toes and at my best. And I was working through that as well. So I didn't have any time for that laying around stuff.
Well, so ladies, if you've had a pregnancy and you felt terrible after the pregnancy, you don't need to be, the reason you feel terrible is not because you have low level of antidepressants or low level amphetamines. It's your hormones, and they can be rebalanced. As a matter of fact, with my daughters, and we have 5 daughters, after each one of them had their babies, I gave them progesterone in the hospital and said, start taking it right away. and not one of them ever had mommy blues or never had postpartum depression or anything like that. They all did exceptionally well. And that's because during pregnancy, your body makes the hormones in your body during pregnancy are made by the placenta. And at the end of your pregnancy, you make massive amounts of progesterone. That's why women oftentimes say, gosh, I just had a burst of energy before that last week or 2 weeks. God, I feel really good. In fact, I had one lady tell me, if you can make me feel the way I felt during the last 2 weeks of my pregnancy, I'll do anything to feel that way again. And that's just progesterone. So when the placenta is delivered, the hormone levels totally collapse. Ovaries got to turn back on. If they don't turn back on right, you don't make enough progesterone. You have this, and progesterone helps your body utilize thyroid hormone. High doses of estrogen hormones, when they're imbalanced with progesterone, adversely affect the ability to utilize thyroid hormones, which govern your body's metabolism. So by getting you on progesterone, we were able to taper you off all those other pharmaceutical drugs. Nobody is sick because they have low levels of pharmaceutical drugs in their body. That's just a fact. All these pharmaceutical drugs are basically toxins. They have to be detoxified by the liver. God put in your body natural hormones, and when your hormones are imbalanced, you don't need antidepressants and Adderall stimulants. We're talking about like amphetamine stimulants. You don't need that. What you need is to balance your hormones out. Get your female hormones balanced and a little bit of thyroid, and that's gone miles. Plus, you're on a good, healthy eating program and your vitamins and minerals. And so 20 years later, you're still rocking and rolling.
I am.
You're still doing work in accounting and doing all that.
I am, and very grateful.
That's wonderful. Well,
thanks to you, Dr.
The congratulations goes to you, Miss Cinderella. It goes to you because you took charge of your health. And every one of you is in charge of your health. And I'm talking to you listeners. Not even God's in charge of your health. God gave you a body, and you're in charge of keeping that body just like you have a car. Who's in charge of that car? You are, to keep it clean, to keep it running with oil, have gasoline in it, and the proper spark plugs and everything, and to keep it clean. Same thing with your body. God gave you your body. Your job is to keep it healthy. And the way you do that is eat healthy, make sure you keep your hormone levels balanced out, whether you're male or female, and your thyroid hormones and vitamins and minerals to help you detox. And you can stay on a path of health and wellness. So as you mature, you got energy, you got vitality, and you have enthusiasm for life. So Cindy's done that, and I congratulate you, Cindy.
Thank you, sir.
And for each one of you, I want to encourage you to take charge of your health. And if you want to get on a path of health and wellness, we'd be pleased to partner with you to get you healthy and well and keep you there by making recommendations. We're not going to do it for you. We're not going to put a gun to your head. You're in charge of your health, and we'll make the recommendations. You're going to have to follow the program. We're much like coaches. You go, whether you want to learn tennis or golf, or whether you're a jogger or runner or weightlifter, you have somebody coaching you, and they tell you what you need to do. But if you don't do it, you're not going to improve. So that's what we do here. We coach you on a path of health and wellness. You're the one that has to follow the recommendations. So if you're willing to take charge of your health and invest in your health, please give us a call here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thank you, Cindy, very much.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay.
At Physicians Preference Pharmacy, we believe that prescription drugs are commonly overprescribed, treating symptoms only rather than addressing the underlying condition. These drugs offer a temporary fix, but they don't solve the root cause of the problem. Our approach is not about overloading people with medications that offer only a temporary fix. It is so important to recognize that you do not get sick because you have a low level of pharmaceutical drugs in your blood. You get sick because you are deficient in something or because your body is not in balance. As part of your healthcare team, we work with your doctor to restore that healthy balance. Sometimes this means replacing hormones, vitamins, nutrients, or even antioxidants. So how is this different than traditional treatment? Rather than covering up the symptoms with yet another medication, we work to replenish the body, restoring your health and restoring your wellness.
Information provided on this program is neither intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice and is not intended to replace the services of a physician, nor does it constitute a doctor-patient relationship. You should not use information from this radio program to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. If you have or suspect you have an urgent medical problem, promptly contact a professional healthcare provider or call 911. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution advises you to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider prior to starting any new treatment or with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Any application of the recommendations from this program is at the listener's discretion.